with Ankalaev, he's big, he's strong, and in that first fight, he just had the answers to beat Pereira, and he fought a smart fight. Not necessarily the most exciting style, but he fought a smart fight. I mean, I've been looking at the training footage of Pereira for this one. He looks scary. He looks angry, and you know, we'll see what that loss is.
Let's remember, we all know Magomed won the first one. If Pereira wins the second one, well, of course you do a rubber match. You settle it once and for all. There could be a little bit of truth to that statement. Pereira goes out there and smokes him. If he was to do that, then yeah, maybe there wouldn't be a third match.
The anticipation is getting higher and retention is rising as 320 is just a few days away. Magomed Ankalaev is all set to defend his belt, while Alex Pereira is confident of reclaiming his title. Although Ankalaev is the favorite to win this rematch, Dustin Poirier believes Alex Pereira will not let Magomed Ankalaev escape in the rematch. He feels Pereira's hunger to reclaim the belt and prove himself again pushes him to find the finishing blow, likely ending the fight by knockout.
You said you think Alex is a good underdog value pick. Tell me why. Why do you think he wins this fight?
I just think he's danced with this guy before. He wants that title back. And he wants to win, you know, he wants revenge, and he wants to show that that wasn't him in the last fight. There's a lot of reasons why. And I just feel like he's too dangerous of a fighter to go in there and not find that shot this fight.
You think you see it inside the distance knockout?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a TKO or a KO inside the distance.
Dricus du Plessis also believes Alex Pereira will regain the light heavyweight title against Magomed Ankalaev. He explains that Pereira's striking is not the problem, but the clinch exchanges were. Du Plessis expects Pereira to make the right adjustments in the rematch.
Do you think there's actually more pressure on Pereira here?
I think what's going to happen here is, you know, he's coming to prove a point. And like you say, he's not a young guy anymore. He's nearing the end of his career. So it's going to be exciting to see what he does after this, regardless of the outcome. I honestly feel the way I saw him in training, the stuff that I saw, he looks sharper. It looks, like I said, just more intense. But the striking was never the problem. The striking was never the problem for him. It's the fact that he got smothered. And for a striker, that is not so hard to, I think he has the right people around. That's not going to be so hard to start and figure out, this is how I don't get smothered. Learn to fight in that clinch situation, because he has the elbows, he has the knees, he has all that. So he's going to need to keep his back off the fence, and I do believe that they've spent enough time on working on that. And him taking some time away from the sport was good for him. You know, sometimes you need to do that to, you know, get that reset and get that hunger back. I really don't see this fight going the distance this time. But I'm putting my money on Pereira to claim the title. I have to go with him.
However, Tom Aspinall points out that Alex Pereira had favorable matchups leading up to Magomed Ankalaev. He says that while Ankalaev didn't shoot for many takedowns in their first meeting, the constant threat of wrestling makes him a completely different challenge. Aspinall believes the stylistic edge makes Ankalaev stand out compared to Pereira's past opponents.
I think the matchups were quite favorable to him up until this point. I think the threat that Ankalaev brings in, him being a southpaw, him controlling the range really well, and him just with the threat of the takedowns. Even in the first fight, we didn't really see him really go for the takedowns too much, but I think just the threat being there, I think stylistically he's a bad matchup for Pereira, and I wouldn't be surprised if he does it again.
On the other hand, Alex Pereira reacts to Magomed Ankalaev's denial about avoiding him at the UFC PI. He points out that the tweets don't even sound like they were written by Ankalaev himself, and suggests that Ankalaev might have assumed he didn't want to cross paths with him.
Alex, obviously it's fight week, and already there's a storyline going into this one. We've seen the interactions between you and Magomed here at the PI. He says you're a liar. He says that your version of events is not what happened. Can you explain to us what the issue has been with Ankalaev this week?
Yeah, I don't know why he's saying that, because that's 100% what happened, you know, but that just goes to show you that it's not him writing online. It's not coming from him. So what happens is somebody else is somewhere else writing for him, and then he comes here and he sees me. Maybe he thought, you know, maybe I don't want to face him right now. I'm alone, but That's 100% what happened. So
earlier, Magomed Ankalaev rejected Alex Pereira's accusations about dodging him at the UFC Performance Institute. He recalled finishing rehab and being told Pereira was nearby, yet never crossing paths with him. Ankalaev said he was annoyed to later see Pereira's video suggesting otherwise and claims that when he addressed it face-to-face, Pereira admitted the story was secondhand before moving the conversation elsewhere.
It's a very interesting story because the other day I was doing like some physical therapy, like a massage, and then after I finished, I came out, I was told that Pereira was there, but I didn't see him. And then the next day I see a video come out where he says that I was hiding and stuff like that, which is not true. And I was a little angry when I saw the video. So then when I saw him today, I approached him. I said, hey, when did I see you or when did you see me? It never happened. And to which he answered, he said, oh, there was one girl who told me that you were there, but, you know, he switched the topic, you know.
Moreover, Alex Pereira makes it clear that he holds no grudge against Magomed Ankalaev before their UFC 320 title rematch. He explains that he usually keeps things respectful with opponents and has even trained with past rivals once the fights were over. Pereira dismisses the idea that he avoided Ankalaev, saying it was the UFC that chose not to push that matchup earlier, not him. For him, there is no personal conflict, just the fight itself.
He said that he doesn't respect you anymore after these things. He did before, he doesn't now. But how do you feel about him on a personal level, leading into the rematch?
I try to avoid conflict with my opponents. I even become friendly with them afterwards. You've seen this before. I've even talked about training with past opponents. So I don't really know what it is. You know, I think that he used to say a lot that I was running away from him, that I didn't want to fight him. That's never happened. We all know the UFC didn't want to promote that fight. So that's never what it was. But I have no problem with him, and you know, I always try to be friendly and avoid conflict.
Alex Pereira also brushed off Magomed Ankalaev's claims about him being slippery in their UFC 313 title fight. He explained that stopping Ankalaev's takedown attempts proved how much his skills had improved and gave him even more confidence moving forward.
When we spoke to, going back to the last fight, we spoke to Magomed last week, and he was asked about your success in takedown defense. And he chalked it up to where he wasn't able to, he was injured before the last fight, so he wasn't able to train in wrestling. But then he also made the allegation that after the first round, he went back and told his coaches that he thought you were greasier than normal and greased up. Did you hear those allegations, and what do you make of that?
Yeah, I think he mentioned that after the fight too, saying that I was oiled up or whatever it was. But I think that just goes to show how much I've evolved in this game and how I was able to implement my game plan and take out his game, you know. So it actually just strengthens me mentally to realize that, you know, a lot of people were saying a lot of things about his takedowns and stuff, and I was able to take that out.
Magomed Ankalaev is pretty confident about his win, and he even made a bold claim that hints at challenging his next opponent after defending his belt on 4th October. Magomed Ankalaev tweeted, "Guys, Thursday during the press conference, I've something to say to every light heavyweight on this card. Tune in on Thursday for the press conference." On the other hand, Alex Pereira released the footage of the altercation between Alex Pereira and Magomed Ankalaev at the UFC PI.
То же самое не нужно словами бросаться. Мы ожидаем что-то октября будет. Давайте сделаем это в ринге. Зачем говорить пустые слова?
Ele falou, cara, na verdade a gente vai lutar no dia 4 de outubro, a gente não tem que trocar palavras mais. Eu não falei nada, ele sempre falou. Eu nunca falei nada, ele sempre falou. E agora quando chegou frente a frente é cuzão, pô.
Meanwhile, Khabib Nurmagomedov regards Magomed Ankalaev as one of the greatest fighters to come out of Russia. He highlights Ankalaev's steady progress, pointing out how his game keeps evolving and how his abilities position him to reach the very top of the sport.
He is one of the best who ever did in Russia already, and he is keep improving himself, keep climbing on top to be the best who ever do this. No, I really believe he has skills.
Brendan Schwab sides with Alex Pereira in the rematch against Magomed Ankalaev. He points out that Pereira brings more excitement to the sport and connects better with fans, which benefits the UFC long term. Schwab also thinks Pereira enters the fight in a stronger position, being healthier and having learned from the first matchup. In his view, those factors give Pereira the edge, and he hopes to see him come out on top.
So I do think Alex has the tools to pull this off, and for the sport and for the longevity of the UFC and for this new Paramount deal, you want Alex to win. And listen, I don't need a guy tweeting and doing all the shit talking and all that stuff. It's just Magomed's style, even though he's looked upon as a grappler, but there's just some disconnect there with the fan base and with the media where Magomed's not a bigger star. I do think we see a very different fight from Alex, being healthy, having the tape study of the first fight. Even though he's injured, he can take a lot from that. I hope he wins. I hope Alex wins.
Sean O'Malley breaks down the first fight between Magomed Ankalaev and Alex Pereira, noting how Ankalaev's body shots landed clean and even shook Pereira near the end of the second round. He admits it's tough to count Pereira out because of his knockout power, but he leans toward Ankalaev in the rematch while still acknowledging how dangerous Pereira remains.
Ankalaev throws those beautiful shots to the body. He was landing some beautiful shots to the body, some twos to the old fucking tits. It's like, you have to respect Alex Pereira's power, but you also have to be able to fucking willing to get in there and trade, and that's what Ankalaev did. He cracked him good a few times. He almost dropped him at the end of the second, I believe. Then Pereira had a better third, and that was a close fight. I'm kind of leaning towards Ankalaev, but it's hard to count someone out that can knock someone out with one fucking punch. So I'm going to go with Ankalaev. Who you got, man?
Robert Whitaker also views Magomed Ankalaev as a very tough challenge for anyone in the division. He admits he's interested to see how Ankalaev's style matches up with Alex Pereira's striking, and considers their rematch a fascinating test between two dangerous skill sets.
Long arms, tall, they're all got long arms. Like, everybody's 6'3" and above. I don't know.
What about Magomed Ankalaev? He's the champ. We'll see what happens on the weekend against Pereira. How would you see a fight with him going? That would be an interesting one. I feel like he'd love that one. Strategically, it's like a bit of a chess match, right?
Yeah, it would be. He'd be a nightmare. Like, let's see what happens with him and Pereira.
Furthermore, Magomed Ankalaev's coach dismisses Alex Pereira's abilities, saying his style lacks surprise and his power is overstated. He portrays Pereira as a slow, aging kickboxer whose striking no longer carries the threat people believe it does. Confident in his fighter, he insists Ankalaev has the tools to beat Pereira even in a striking battle, despite Pereira being known for his stand-up game. Magomed Ankalaev's coach said, "In wrestling, he cannot surprise with anything. His technique is standard, his strikes are standard, he's an old kickboxer, he has no speed, Alex has a punch, but not the kind that can really knock you out. And I tell everyone, if Magomed opens up, he'll surprise everyone and can even outplay, in pure stand-up, a better striker than Alex Pereira." Alex Pereira reveals that he went into his first fight with Magomed Ankalaev far from his best, saying he was nowhere near full strength. He admits it was surprising he managed to push through that, but believes even a slight boost in his condition will make a huge difference. Looking ahead to the rematch, Pereira promises to deliver a performance that erases any uncertainty.
Deal with that is not cool, but honestly, man, like, if I put together everything that was going on with me, and I'm not gonna say right now, it makes me even happy that I was able to do the fight that I did under everything that was going on with me. I'm not trying to talk over there, anything like that. Of course, I'm not happy that with the loss, but knowing my potential and, like, you know what I mean, the way that I fought, you know what I mean, I'm actually even surprised that I was able to fight like that under everything that was going on with me.
What was the most difficult part about dealing with Ankalaev in your first fight in March?
I think the conditions that I was coming to that fight,
So, I mean, were you 50% of what you normally are in that fight? 40%? Are you willing to put a number on it?
Honestly, I was about 40% on that fight, on that night.
Wow.
And obviously, it's going to be much more this time. But if I'm only 50%, that 10% is going to make such a great difference. They're going to leave no doubt for everybody.
Meanwhile, Carlos Alberg announces he will be on standby for the UFC 320 title fight, prepared to replace either Magomed Ankalaev or Alex Pereira if needed. Fresh off his latest victory, he explains that he personally requested the opportunity from Hunter Campbell and was granted the role. Alberg says he's motivated to make history by potentially fighting for a championship just a week after his last bout, and makes it clear he's ready to seize the chance if it comes.
Speaking to Hunter earlier in the cage, or just after the fight, I told him that, I asked him to fly me to Vegas. He said, sweet, all good, so we're good now, we're going to fly to Vegas. And then I also said, then and there, but I didn't confirm, and I said, I will be the backup for that fight. I'm here to break records, man, and this is what I want to do. I don't think anyone has. I don't think from the top of my head is I don't think anyone has fought a fight and then also the very next weekend fight for the title. That's what I envision. That's what I feel like can happen. So I put it in the air. I said but I just want to be there. I want to be there anyway at first, but then if they can make me the backup, that'd be awesome. If anyone falls out, then I'm there. I'll get the job done.
Carlos Ulberg sees both Alex Pereira and Magomed Ankalaev as career-defining opportunities. He views Pereira as a global star whose name carries history, making a win over him especially meaningful. At the same time, he respects Ankalaev's dominance against top competition and considers him just as valuable of an opponent. Ulberg makes it clear that chasing greatness means taking out the toughest fighters, and he already feels like he's the one others should be aiming for.
Both guys would be massive for sure. Fighting Pereira will be historical, massive. He's got a big following. Everyone loves the guy, and finishing someone like him would be awesome or fighting someone like him would be great on its own. But then when you look at Ankalaev, who's been dominant and he's also beaten Pereira, you beat someone like him, it just means you're at the top. It means no one can touch you, and that's what I want. I want to make sure I beat the best. So if you want to be the best, if you want to be the man, you got to beat the man. And right now, I'm the man.
Last one from me.
I don't even have a title. I'm the man.
Nick Barnhill breaks down the rematch by noting that Magomed Ankalaev might not find it any easier against Alex Pereira the second time around. He recalls how Pereira earned Ankalaev's respect right away in their first meeting, and while Ankalaev adapted, he never fully took over. Barnhill admits Pereira isn't the most complete fighter in every area, but stresses that his striking remains world-class even if it didn't fully come through in their initial clash.
I'm not of the nature that everybody seems to think Ankalaev is just going to go in there and beat him easier and even faster than he did last time. Pereira did give him some things to worry about. He had his respect early on, and of course that respect started to fade later into the fight, but not fully, because if it did, Ankalaev probably would have pushed on the gas a little bit harder and looked for the finish. Pereira might not be the fighter that Ankalaev is in mixed martial arts, but when it comes to striking, he still is one of the highest level guys in the UFC. He obviously came in the first time with limited weapons, mostly sitting around all night looking for the lead hook. He was also trying to beat the calf up, but Ankalaev did a pretty good job at noticing that, and then as the fight went on, he made that less and less effective.
Nick Barnhill predicts that Alex Pereira could find himself behind on the scoreboards if he spends too much time waiting for counters instead of applying pressure. He suggests that Pereira's best chance might come from taking risks in the later rounds, where a push for the finish could turn the fight in his favor. Still, Barnhill admits it's unclear whether Pereira will choose a cautious approach or gamble for the big moment in the rematch.
If Pereira doesn't start mixing it up and instead of waiting for counter strikes, start to bring the offense himself, he will find himself low on the scorecards again. Then we're basically going to look at the exact same fight where Ankalaev wins a 5-round victory, unanimous decision, or Pereira says, you know what, risk it all for the biscuit in these last couple rounds. I'm going to go out there and try to get this belt back. If that happens, I could see a late finish happening, but I don't know which side of the game Pereira is going to come in on.
Meanwhile, Chael Sonnen points out that the rematch between Alex Pereira and Magomed Ankalaev lacks a buzz because many believe it will play out just like their first encounter. He mentions that even other fighters pushing for title shots appear to see Ankalaev as the likely winner, and since the original fight ended decisively without debate, Sonnen feels there isn't much about to spark curiosity about a different outcome this time.
Well, everything just changed. So, Pereira versus Ankalaev is very much going under the radar, and it's going under the radar for a number of reasons, but none of which is greater than the fact that we believe we know the outcome of that fight. Like, there just hasn't been a lot of pomp and circumstance around the idea that Pereira is going to win that fight. Other guys in the division that see themselves lined up, when they come out and talk about it without disrespecting Pereira, but they do mention, you know, I think I should be next. I think I should take on Ankalaev next. They will give a hint or a clue that they believe that Ankalaev is going to win. I don't see that any different. I watched that first fight. There was nothing compelling from a controversial standpoint that would make you believe that if you did 5 more rounds, you were going to get a different result.
Chael Sonnen admits he's puzzled by the way things are playing out between Alex Pereira and Magomed Ankalaev. He notes that despite already holding a win over Pereira, Ankalaev continues to call him out on social media, which struck Sonnen as unusual. At first, he even thought the posts were old, only to realize they were recent and consistent, while Pereira's silence on the matter made the whole situation seem even stranger.
The way the media and the story is being told, it appears that he's not overly interested in the fight. If you guys will remember, Ankalaev beat Pereira. Ankalaev then calls out Pereira. We're all looking around going, I literally said this to my producer. My producer, Ryan, shows me this. I go, Ryan, are you showing me an old article? What do you mean Ankalaev called out Pereira? He just beat Pereira. Ryan goes, no. He called him out today. Said Ankalaev, who beat Pereira, is calling out Pereira? He said, yes, he called him out today. I had to go to social media, go to Ankalaev, and make sure that I had this story right. And sure enough, he called him out again, and he called him out again, and he called him out the next week, and then he really started to ramp things up a month or so later, and Pereira never, that I saw, responded. I never saw Pereira respond.
Chael Sonnen suggests that Alex Pereira's real interest lies in moving to heavyweight rather than staying in his current division. He believes Pereira has the tools to capture gold there eventually and sees that as his bigger goal. Sonnen argues that the upcoming fight might not even be the matchup Pereira is chasing, pointing out how fans often misread what fighters truly want.
But every part about Pereira is he just keeps dropping hints. I mean, every single thing that he does has to do with what he weighs. Doesn't matter if it's 2 weeks ago when he was 244 pounds or if it was this morning when he was 234 pounds. Everything that he puts out has to do with his weight, which I interpret is foreshadowing that he doesn't want to be a 205 pounder. And I don't want him at 205 pounds, personally. I believe he is capable of champ status. I want to see that. I want to see that in my lifetime. Or I want to see the opportunity. I want him at heavyweight. But that would still speak to the idea that this is not the fight that he wants. And this is just kind of the way and the vibe of our industry. And I now here to tell you, our industry got that wrong.
And that concludes today's video. Let us know your thoughts on this matchup in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for the latest updates and upcoming UFC fights.